Moana is one of Disney's most visually stunning movies. Moana of Motunui is an adventurous independent character who sets out on an entertaining journey to restore the heart of Te Fiti. She meets likeable characters with so much personality along the way, such as Maui and Tamatoa. Moana features some of Disney's greatest animation and some of their most memorable songs, including Shiny and You're Welcome. As I grew up with the Star Wars prequels, I have so much more nostalgia for them than the originals. Revenge of the Sith is a perfect Anakin origin story, as we get to see his transformation into Darth Vader. Anakin's battle against Obi-Wan Kenobi remains my favourite lightsaber duel from any Star Wars film, and the whole Order 66 sequence is just phenomenal. Civil War is proof that a versus movie can be done right after Batman vs Superman disappointed many, including myself. I love the fact that while kind of being an Avengers 2.5, Marvel makes sure that it's still a Captain America centric movie by continuing his journey after the Winter Soldier to find Bucky. On top of being a great Avengers 2.5 and Captain America movie, the filmmakers at Marvel did a really good job at introducing Spider-Man and Black Panther into the MCU. It still amazes me that Pixar thought to centre a film around human emotions. Inside Out is Pixar's most emotionally pure film to date, and Bing Bong's death has gone down as one of the saddest deaths from an animated film. It's not just joy and sadness that make Inside Out so great, it's also disgust, anger and especially fear, who unfortunately often get overshadowed by joy and sadness. Monsters University is the purest fun film ever made, followed by Emperor's New Groove. It has everything from charismatic, lovable characters, an engaging plot, funny humour and emotional moments between Mike and Sully during the final act. Endgame has the best final hour from a Marvel movie, but there weren't enough action sequences in the rest of the film to put it above Infinity War, which was full of non-stop action sequences. Infinity War had higher stakes than most other Marvel films, and I like that each group of heroes had their own little side plot. I remember having to wait months to watch Coco, as the film was released during 2018 in the UK, but was released in the rest of the world during 2017. The wait was so worth it, as I've never teared up in a cinema as much as I did when watching Coco during Miguel's song to Mama Coco. Zootopia touches on real-life subject matters in an entertaining mystery that will keep both kids and adults hooked. Nick and Judy's complicated relationship is why I love Zootopia so much, and I especially loved the scene with Flash at the DMV that was used to death in the trailers. I don't understand why Home gets so much hate. I consider it DreamWorks' best film as the main adventure is so much fun, and I loved both lead characters, Tip and O's dynamics with each other. The new characters introduced in Toy Story 2, including Jessie, Bullseye, Wheezy, Zurg and Stinky Pete, were just as great as the supporting characters from the original Toy Story. The only thing I didn't like about Toy Story 2 was the fact that Sid and his toys didn't come back for the sequel, but that's only one extremely minor nitpick I have for one of the best films of all time. Pixar took a huge risk in creating an almost silent animated film, risking the chance of losing kids' interest. The risk paid off tremendously, as not only was WALL-E a box office juggernaut, it's an outstanding film with a sweet romance between two lovable robots. As someone who loves to visit the arcade, I had ridiculously high expectations for Wreck-It Ralph. The film didn't disappoint in the slightest, as it had everything you'd ever want from a movie based on an arcade game. It had great cameos to other video game characters, but it's Ralph and Vanellope's friendship that is the highlight of the film. Toy Story 3 was a childhood favourite of mine. I remember the year it came out, loving the film, even watching it on loop and having a Toy Story themed birthday party because I was obsessed with the film. I loved it back then and still think it's one of the best constructed films ever made. This is Randy Newman's best score that he has ever done for a Toy Story movie. Up is a great classic adventure film while also subverting expectations along the way. Its visual storytelling in its opening montage is so great that the characters didn't have to talk for us to connect with Carl. Not to mention, the married life piece of music is also fantastic. Once Carl and Russell make it to Paradise Falls and Muntz is introduced, the film shifts gear to an action-packed adventure, which I didn't mind in the slightest. Toy Story may have been the first ever full-length computer animated film, but it's still the golden standard of how great computer animated films can be if done right. Toy Story is an outstanding classic buddy comedy filled with compelling characters and a magnificent soundtrack. I especially appreciated that Toy Story was slightly edgier than Disney's other animated films. Cars is a film you either love or hate. As I've grown up with the original, I have so much nostalgia for the film that I absolutely adore it and can't personally see anything wrong with the film. The first act is fun, but when lightning arrives at Radiator Springs is when the film really picks up as we get introduced to the ever so memorable Radiator Springs townspeople. The Incredibles is everything that the Fantastic Four movies should have been. It's a prime example that animated films aren't just made for kids, and in some way the original Incredibles is geared more towards adults with some of the adult themes and messages. The family's dynamic is what made the film so great, as well as Syndrome, who I still believe is the best movie villain of all time. It's one of the best cases of how side characters can be done right, as both Edna Mode and Frozone are just as memorable as the Parr family. I always think of Monsters Inc. as the film where Pixar have got to use computer animation because the animation used in Monsters Inc. is so much better than the animation Pixar used for Toy Story: A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2, their 3 previous films. The world building's fantastic, and Randall is easily Pixar's second best villain, only behind Syndrome. Ratatouille is the most visually beautiful movie I've ever seen. The scene where Remy first climbs up in the pipes to discover the beautiful city of Paris lit up at night is easily the most visually stunning movie scene ever. The gorgeous visuals isn't just the thing that makes Ratatouille so great, it's every single character, as they are all so likeable, especially Colette, the vicious but deep down kind-hearted female chef who falls in love with Linguini. The dynamic between Remy and Linguini makes for some great visual comedy moments, and I haven't even mentioned Anton Ego, who is easily the most complex animated movie character of all time. Finding Nemo is my personal favourite movie of all time. It's easily the film that I have watched the most as a kid and still think it's phenomenal today. The animation was cutting edge at the time when the film came out in 2003 and remains impressive in 2021. Every single character who Marlin, Dory and Nemo meet along the way are incredibly memorable, and to be honest, it's the only movie that I can't pick out a single flaw with. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to leave your favourite movies in the comment section below.